Next speaker, Mr. Morteza Kazemian. He's a journalist, an activist, national religious activist, and a member of the Committee for Free and Fair Elections and researcher in political science. The topic is of his speech is the characteristics of elections in Iran. In the name of God, greetings to all of you. Thanks to Südwind for giving me this possibility to participate and speak here, and for the invitation. I will continue on this topic after the other friends who actually extensively spoke about the preliminary theoretical issues. I will speak more about the quality of freedom of elections, especially in the important elections that are forthcoming in Iran. I will first say that the freedom of elections is dependent on the realization of the fundamental liberties and rights of people. The situation of political activists in Iran shows how much these rights are violated, actually. As far as political parties are concerned, we have two important reformist groups, which are the Islamic Mujahideen group and also the Reformist Party. They are some of their members were imprisoned and some are still in detention, and these groups have been declared illegal by the judiciary. They are part of they are a very important part of the reformists in the Iranian society. With regard to opposition groups, the most important groups, the Council of Religious Nationalist Groups and also the Freedom Movement of Iran and also the National Front, they are under huge pressure. They are forbidden from political activities. They have been imprisoned. The Council of Religious Nationalist Activists, Dr. Rafi, Dr. Madani and many others have been condemned to long-term prison sentences, 10 years and more. And the National Front, actually, there is actually a very strange regulation that has been issued by the Intelligence Ministry that forbids them to have gatherings even inside their houses. So the opposition that even actually is committed to the Constitution is repressed like this. Even those parties who have actually been issued authorization to be active, like the National Unity Party and the Party of Voice of Iranians, which is a very pragmatist group and has had an official authorization to be active, they are all under pressure and restrictions. Some of the important members of the unity of the nation have been actually called, and also they are under pressure and they have been convocated actually by the intelligence units of the Revolutionary Guardians. So this is the situation right 6 months before the elections will be held. As about the press, I would say that whatever we can say has been said many times before. It's years that the press has been censored in Iran. In 1990, many newspapers were closed, and then the situation has deteriorated increasingly since then, especially after the elections and the coup in 2009 and after the elections in 2009. And the situation of the press is very bad, and it has nothing to do with standards of free publications in the world. It has improved a little bit after the election of Rouhani, but there is actually self-censorship to a great degree in the press. and newspapers are easily actually banned temporarily. So things that issues related to what actually goes against the right to free and fair elections cannot be discussed in the press. What happened to the members of the Unity of Nations was not at all reflected in reformist press. And what also the continuation of the house arrest of leaders of the Green Movement that are under house arrest more than 1,680 days, Mr. Mousavi and Mr. Karoubi, who were actually the candidates who contested the results of the 2009 election, they are still under house arrest without being charged or put to trial, and no judicial authority has so far managed to justify this house arrest on the basis of the law. And it's actually the leader of the Islamic Republic who decides about the continuation of this house arrest. So the situation that governs the political atmosphere in Iran excludes the basic conditions for free and fair elections, as it was explained by the previous speakers. Respect for justice and fairness in the elections means that no conditions beyond nationality and age requirements should be imposed on candidates. But unfortunately, the monitoring institutions impose standards on the elections that in practice restrict the elections and base them on new criteria. The judiciary in unfair trials has condemned many citizens, and actually these sentences are used by those committees that monitor the elections that work under the Ministry of Interior. They have to apply those sentences and the reports of the Judiciary and the Intelligence Ministry. And these reports and decisions exclude most of the people who are not within the system and have actually judicial cases. And in a second stage, the Guardian Council steps in and they exclude once again and filter and vet those who are not within the system. So they actually have an impact on the elections in two stages. Iran is a member of the Parliamentary Union, and they have actually confirmed and signed the criteria of free and fair elections, and they must apply the standards of free and fair elections. But contrary to what the Islamic authorities pretend, and especially Mr. Khamenei, the leader, there is a big distance between the Iranian elections and the standards of free and fair elections. The only thing that they do as they should do is that they periodically hold elections, and then they count the votes as they should. So there, in appearance, there is a right to vote that is accorded to the citizens. I will give you a very clear example that they have not counted the votes properly in 2009. There is another important aspect. The Islamic Republic, contrary to what is required in the Interparliamentary Union and in the standards of free and fair elections, they don't accept international monitoring in the elections. While if they had really no reason to fear international monitoring, they should have admitted them to come in and confirm the healthy character of elections in Iran. In presidential elections, the conditions are even worse. An important reason for this is that in the parliamentary elections, it's the Guardian Council that vets the candidates, but in the elections for expediency for the Council of Experts, it's only the 6 Islamic jurists of the Guardian Council who vet the candidates. And this is a vicious circle in which they confirm and co-opt candidates that they consider eligible, and they don't only apply criteria related to the Islamic science capabilities they have, but they also take into consideration their political tendencies. So there is no guarantee actually that in the next elections of the Assembly of Experts, someone like Mr. Hashemi Rafsanjani, who has expressed different political views, is not vetted and set outside of the eligible circle. So the Guardian Council can actually reject candidacies as it wishes, and there is no counterpoint, as no checks and balances against its power. So there is a semblance of democracy in the executive, where there is a presidency and a government that is elected. So this situation is not only justified by those who are in power in Iran, they even try to disguise the truth. Mr. Khamenei has described the Assembly of Experts as the symbol of the democracy in the country, while there is a closed circle there where the leader appoints the members of the Guardian Council, and then people are obliged to choose among the candidates confirmed by the Guardian Council, and then the Assembly of Experts actually monitors the leader. So this is a closed circle, and then the leader has a free choice to exercise his own narrow-minded policies and continue authoritarian rule in the country. So we can already foresee that, of course, Mr. Khamenei would say that these vetting rights of the Guardian Council is an acquired right of the Guardian Council, but while it is not compatible with the standards of free and fair elections or the national sovereignty rights, or even with certain provisions of the Islamic Republic Constitution that are actually provided for in the 3rd chapter of the Constitution. So that's why we have such a bad situation in the country. It looks like that the government of Mr. Rouhani can improve the possibility that actually a healthy election can be held, because they can be trusted in terms of the counting of the votes, and they can work as a catalyst for development of democratic forces and neutralize the hegemony of the far-right groups and totalitarian groups. But this is bureaucratic politics, and at the same time it will entail an increase in the cultural resistance within the society, and it can be favorable for the presence of the social forces in the elections. This is an opportunity, actually, and a hope for the forces who care for transition to democracy and who can use electoral opportunities for putting forward democratic plans, and also supporting those candidates who are closer to civil society and to reinforce the civil society, those who are present within the power system. So with a view to the realities of the Islamic Republic and the restrictions that exist in Iran, we have no choice but to try to reinforce the civil society and to take advantage of the presence of the bureaucrats within the power to advance the causes of the civil society and civil movements. And the Green Movement and all the social movements in Iran are like actually fire under the ashes, and then actually they are seeking an opportunity to burn in flames again and to put forward their democratic